Hello. I just finished watching a top 10 video and I remembered a top 10 video games this year video. And I remembered that this year I wrote down, if I played a game, I wrote it down. And if I beat the game, I recorded the date that I beat the game. So I have a list of every single game that I beat this year, every single game that I played this year, and every single game that I beat. And I wanted to make a list of that. I remembered that at the beginning of this year, I was doing these videos where I was talking about games that I had beaten really briefly, and I had fun with it, and so I wanted to do that again. Now, my list is going to be different because it's the top 10 games that I've played this year, and I feel like I'm doing a lot of catch up. There are a lot of games that everyone else has played that I'm only just getting around to. Um, so I just wanted to get that disclaimer out of the way. And also, I don't feel like I'm going to be saying a lot of things that are new. So really, it's just going to be for you to get to know me a little bit better. And if you stick around and watch the whole video, thank you for that. That's very kind of you. Thank you so much. This is unedited. I'm probably going to misspeak a lot. Um, there also might be takes that you don't like. Um, I'm sorry. That's me. Thank you for watching again. Um, so, I'm going to also say, more clarifying, I think people would expect Splatoon 2 to be on this list. I'm in my head, I did play Splatoon 2 this year, and I did play quite a bit. I got out of S rank in clams, which was a really big deal. Um, and like had been climbing the S rank, especially at the beginning of the year, or the S plus rank at the beginning of the year. So it was definitely a year that I like played Splatoon, got accomplishments. Like I got I got medals on a bunch of my weapons this year. Um, but in my head, 2019 is the year that I played Splatoon. And so even though I'm going to play it more, Splatoon 3 will drop and I'm going to play that. Um, like 2019 is really the year for Splatoon 2, so Splatoon 2 isn't on this list. And that's kind of how my mind categorizes things. 2020 was the year that I played the 3D Zeldas. So which isn't like true. Like I had played Majora's Mask before that. I had played Link to the Past before that, which isn't a 3D, I know. Um but like it was the year that I had played Wind Waker, and it was the year that I had decided I was going to play the 3Ds before playing Breath of the Wild. And so I played Ocarina of Time and Twilight Princess. So in my head, that's the year that I played the 3D Zeldas, and then I beat Skyward Sword in January this year. Um, so so even though I'm including games that I played, it's specifically games that I beat, games that I feel like I gave a fair shake to, that I really gave a fair chance, in terms of playing and experiencing. Um, even though that's the case, and Splatoon 2 definitely qualifies for that. Like games like Splatoon 2, Tetris 99, a bunch of the roguelikes that I like worked on and tried to progress in. They're in my head, they're not games that I played this year. So they're not on this list. I'll talk about them if you want me to. You have to let me know. Sorry, we're in the middle of I don't know if you can hear the weather outside. We're in the middle. They called it a squall, a winter squall. So we've got a lot of wind happening right now. Um, okay. So to the list. I guess we're gonna go 10 to 1. Again, most of these games did not come out this year. So number 10 is Little Nightmares, which I loved. It was tiny and small and creepy and great, and I love the tiny, the small, and the creepy. It was just a great aesthetic. It was quick, which is always good. I beat it it was like a 2-day sitting. Like I sat down and played it a little bit and then sat down again and beat it, which is always great. So like a Friday night, Saturday morning type thing, which are so fun. Um, and I really liked it. There wasn't anything that was too confusing. I didn't play the DLC. I will go and play that at some point. Um, so it was just the first game with 6, and it was good. 9 was Dondara, which I had talked to several people about while I was playing it. It's a Metroidvania, and there's a part of me that feels like it's unknown, but also like I go and it has like a thriving subreddit, and like there's definitely discussion about the game online. So like it's known, people know about it, people talk about it, but I don't see like greater discourse about it, I guess. Dundara is a Metroidvania where the gimmick is that you can't run. So you jump from wall to wall to wall to wall. Like you aim at the part of the wall you want to jump to, and then you hit the jump button and you jump there. And then you can also shoot. So while you're stationary, like you can shoot. And if you get hit, it removes you from the wall and you just end up floating. And then you choose where you want to land to. And they made a game around that. It was very interesting. Apparently, it was designed for touchscreen controls, which is very fascinating to me. Like that they could just remove the controller from a game, but I played it with a controller. And it was very hard. I probably spent like 2 weeks just hacking away at the final boss. This was also like when school started this year, and I got really busy with school and didn't have as much time for gaming as like the rest of the year. So like I don't know how many hours, but it was a while. And it was good. Like it made the top 10 list, and I wasn't sure if it would, but it did, and it was good. Um I Next is A Short Hike, which is I'm sure all of you know, and it's really good. I played it with a friend of mine. Um like we went and played it together, and we would like hand off the controllers and do what we wanted to do. And we played it in 3 hours. But it's a game that like in the back of my mind I know I want to go back to when it's not as fresh and in my head. Um I played this like in the middle of when I was playing Breath of the Wild, and it was interesting to play a small open world game in the middle of playing a big open world game. Um, and I 100% think that like if you liked Breath of the Wild, you should play it. Which again, it's all stuff that people have heard before. Um, and the progression was interesting. Like it was quick. And it's one of those games that I feel like it has, like for me, it has easy replayability, which is great to have in a game. Um, 7 was Metroid 2, Return of Samus for the Game Boy. That is, I'm looking quickly, that is the oldest game on this list. And it was also like the most jank, the hardest game, like the least accessible game. But I loved the way that I played it. I have the Game Boy Advance adapter for my GameCube, and I found an old CRT TV. And so I got it, and I like took it out of the closet and set it up in my room, and I like hooked up the GameCube to it, and it's what I'll play like my Wii on, and and if the Wii game, like if it makes sense for the Wii game, and like my N64. So I have it all set up for my GameCube and my N64, and I played Metroid 2 for the Game Boy through the Game Boy Advance adapter on my GameCube on my CRT TV, which was awesome. It made the music sound brilliant. It had such a great aesthetic to it. It was really, really a wonderful experience running around fighting alien monsters. It was not the easiest to control. That game has the worst space jump. It's so like I've played all the 2D Metroids, and that one it's better than the first Metroid, but it's also a lot weirder and harder in other ways. But it's very fun. It's very good. That was such a great way to experience that game. And it's definitely one of the best like overall experiences with a video game that I've had this year, which is 100% why it's on the list, and why it's on the list higher than like Little Nightmares and Short Hike and Dandara. After Metroid 2, so number 6 was Stardew Valley. I started another farm on Stardew Valley, and that was the game that I have the second most hours in this year. I would not be surprised. And I did that because the 1.5 patch came out on Switch, and it rules. It's so good. They added so much to the game, so many things. Like I started out playing the beginning and I was like, okay, it's really similar. It's kind of the same as the first farm I started, and then really got into it and got to see all the changes, and it was fun. Like, it's still Stardew Valley, it's still calm, still peaceful, and like having that kind of outlet was a great thing this year. It was 100% one of those things where I was like, I wanted to play another game, but started up Stardew Valley, and even though I wanted to play another game, I like just returned to it and got to the credits, and like it was great. I married Leah this time. Penny I married in my first game. I married Leah in this game. And so that was another like fun thing, like getting to see that character and her whole story again. Um, Not again, for the first time. Me misspeaking, unedited. Um, and it was good. Stardew Valley's good. It's a really good game. Able to get a lot of hours out of it. So if you're wanting a game that you can get a lot of hours out of, it's only like $15. Get Stardew Valley. It's so good. The dev is working so hard on it, or the dev team. It's so good. Um, Next is, I think, the second oldest game on this list. I think, yeah, yeah, and that is Chrono Trigger for the Super Nintendo, which um I've told my friend Micah that he needs to play. Like, there are a lot of things where he talks about like things that he really likes in games and things like that, and it's like, oh, you should play Chrono Trigger. Which, if you've not played Chrono Trigger, you should play Chrono Trigger. It off the top of my head, it's my first big boy JRPG. I've played a bunch of you all know I've played a bunch of Pokemon. Chrono Trigger was my first big boy JRPG. Um, and it's good. The animations are good. The Akira Toriyama styling is good. They make it so like it's brilliant because it's designed such that if you're not supposed to be there, you're gonna get beaten. If you are supposed to be there, you'll win. So that's how you can determine like if you're in the right spot. It's so cleverly designed. So it's got an open world field where you can go and explore, and you just like the only way that you know that, oh, I'm not supposed to be here is by going and fighting and getting beaten, and then you go somewhere else and you go and you fight and you're like, oh, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be because this is where I'm progressing. Up until the very end where you can go like all sorts of places all at once. But you know that you can go all those places all at once because the game tells you. And then if you don't want to, if you want to go and just fight the crazy hard final boss, you can. But if you go and do all those missions, all those stories, you'll be more prepared. And so it's really well designed JRPG. It was very fun. A lot of it was great because there were characters that I liked and characters that I didn't like. And I really like it when stories have that because it means that there's a lot of variety. And it means that there's like a lot of thinking that's going into it. Because if it's just like there's like one character that I really like and then a bunch of that I don't really care about, then they didn't. I feel like they didn't put a lot of thinking necessarily into it, into the different types of characters that there can be. And so it's good. Go play Chrono Trigger. Number 4 is Ace Attorney Justice for All. Ace Attorney Justice for All is the second in the original Ace Attorney trilogy. And if Seth is watching this, he's like losing his mind over how little I know about the series, and he's like screaming that I should play more of them. Which, yes, I should, and I'm going to. When? I don't know, but it's gonna happen because I love them. I played Great Ace Attorney this year. And so I've played 3 Ace Attorney games, and I've loved all of them. This one had the biggest thing that did this game for me is spoilery stuff, so I can't talk much about it except for just general good things about Ace Attorney, right? Like the characters are charming, the animations are good. There was one case that was really a pain in the butt that I didn't like doing, but the characters in it were really good, and that was very charming and made up for it. So there are 5 cases per game, right? And there were 2 that were very memorable, and it was the circus one and the last one. But like the circus one is memorable because it was a pain, but I still really like the characters. Like the circus one had the most memorable character, and then the last one was great because of all the spoilery stuff that I'm not going to tell you about. So Ace Attorney Justice for All made it onto list number 4. Top 3. Number 3 is, and this is another one that Seth is like, of course. And honestly, all of these, if you know the games that I've played this year, like after I say this one, like you'll be like, yes, obviously. Number 3 is Okami. That is, it's the game that made me cry this year. Um, I went through the list and I was like trying to remember, and that was the game that like brought me to tears at the end. It was a very interesting way to talk about a person's relationship with God, where you are playing as God. And that was fascinating, and it's really well done, and it's a beautiful, and so just like thinking about that along this beautiful scenery, like having a game where the purpose is to grow flowers, and a game where you are protected by the fresh scent of flowers. Um, I loved it. I love that. I love flowers. Um, Nature is great. I really love flowers and plants. And not just like houseplants, like flowers, like going outside plants. Um, and playing a game that was all about restoring that was amazing. Like it's like a game about bringing back beauty. Um, and that it was charming and touching, and I'm gonna remember it forever. Oh, and this is another game, Micah. You need to play this game as well. Second game, everyone knows what the last two are. Um, they just don't necessarily know which one I put first. But as soon as I say this one, you're gonna know what the number one is. Number two is Breath of the Wild. I easily spent the most time playing that game this year. Um, it's good. Everyone's talked about it. The best experience about Breath of the Wild was me playing it after I had played all the other 3D Metroids, all the other 3D Zeldas. Um, just because there's references and like the songs. Like I 100%. So I had played the first, like I had played through the tutorial, the Great Plateau, before, and when you go through that, there's the Ganon song, right? The da 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 da, like the Ganon song. Um, the first time I played through it, I didn't recognize it as Ganon's song because I hadn't played a bunch of the other 3D Zeldas. Zeldas, yes, Zeldas. That was the right one. I almost corrected myself to Metroids. Yeah, since I had actually played through the other 3D Zeldas, I was like, oh, that's Ganon's song. I recognize this now. And it was great. That was like the biggest, which is really sad. I'm sorry. Music is so hard for me to learn and memorize. It takes many, many, many listenings to, and like a lot of dedicated attention. And me dedicating attention takes like real effort. So, I had the, um, the, I recognized the Ganon song, and then like a bunch of the small, I don't, where am I going with this? I need to like have a structured thought. Okay, structured thought. One of my favorite parts about Breath of the Wild was looking for the fairy fountains. I had decided that I wanted to find all the great fairies because I love the fairies in Zelda. They always feel like they're like the one constant thing. There are great fairies no matter what, at least so far. No matter what game I've played, there have always been great fairies. And so it feels like the great fairies are like this, like in my head, they're not really related to goddess Hylia. And so there are great fairies no matter what game you're playing. And it feels like the great fairies are some part of the game that like Ganon can't really touch. The only one that ever gets corrupted is the one at the end of Link to the Past, at least that I've seen so far. And like there aren't very many in Twilight Princess in terms of great fairies. So they're definitely affected, but they're still like there. And they still have power and can still help out the hero. And so for me, the Great Fairies are like this symbol of good being able to stand despite evil conquering. Um, and so I had a bit where I was like, all right, there's 4. I want to find them. And I spent like a week in that game running around trying to find all the Great Fairy Fountains. And that was fun. It was fun that I could do that I had decided this is what I'm going to do. And so I went out and did it. And it was great. It was really good. I've got other thoughts on Breath of the Wild if you want to talk about Breath of the Wild. Like, I've gone and I've categorized and done all the thinky things that I feel like people would want when they talk about Breath of the Wild. And so we can talk about it if you want. I would love to. But that's really all I'm going to talk about. And then the next game, everyone knows, everyone say it with me in unison. It's Metroid Dread. Hooray. It exists. Everyone loves a Metroid Dread. I had a notification. I should have gone like this. And you can't see me. Oh, you can see. There's a little bit. That's my knuckle. Oh, now it's gone. Number 1 game of the year is Metroid Dread. And it's the first game that I actually like put down after I beat it. And then like a week later, maybe a little bit more than a week, like picked up again and started playing again. And so I know that like it's the game that I'm gonna just be. It used to be Super Metroid. Super Metroid used to be the game that when I didn't know what to play and I wanted to play something, I would turn on Super Metroid. Unless I was going to start something new. I would turn on Super Metroid. I'm just going to do that with Dread. Super Metroid is one of my top 6 favorite games ever. And like me comparing Super to Dread is hard. Like it's hard for me to say, do I prefer one or the other? And I know a lot of that is because I'm like, I've got weird glasses that I see Super Metroid through. They're not like nostalgia goggles because I didn't play it when I was a little kid. That was Fusion. And I know that I see Fusion with nostalgia goggles. I view that game definitely a lot higher than I think it deserves, which it deserves a lot. It's very good. But I think I still even view it even better than that. And then Super Metroid is like, it's untouchable in my head, right? Like in my head, there's nothing wrong with it. It's taken me a long time to come to the spot to say the controls are a little weird. And even then I still say, yes, controls are weird. That's all video games get good, which is like not maybe the best take to have about video games. But I do, whatever. And I hold to it. Get good. Figure out the controls. It's part of the game. Yeah, it controls better than Super. Like it's easy to say that. It's got a lot of it's the best feeling Samus. The only thing that I don't like about it is that I don't feel like it gives you quite enough control to go back. Like you have to be very intentional and diligent about that. When in Super Metroid, that was just how things went. Like my friend Micah really explained it well, where he said, Dread tells you, you got this thing, here's how you use it. Super Metroid says, you got this thing, do you remember where to use it? See if you can go find where you're supposed to use it. And so like since Super asks you that question, it really forces the backtracking, the going back, the going and seeing other parts of the world. And so it's easier to get lost in Super, and like the type of loss that you got in Super was good. And I feel like the type of loss that you get in Dread can also be good. It's just harder to get lost. You have to go and get lost intentionally. With Super, it would happen unintentionally. And so those are a lot of my thoughts on Dread. Especially like Dread compared to Super, which is not a fair way, I don't think, to talk about Dread. especially because I'm still playing it, and I'm still like I'm turning it on now and playing that instead of Dread, and I'm at the final boss in my second playthrough, so it could very well be the game that I play twice in a year, which I haven't had a game be that. Yeah, so those are my top 10 games. Dread is number 1. Let me do honorable mentions. I wanted to do these before saying Dread. I should have done them before saying Breath of the Wild, because it was, once I said Breath of the Wild, like, it was obvious that it was going to be Dread for number 1. I'm playing through Brilliant Diamond right now. It's very good. Definitely play a Gen 4 Pokemon game. Either play Platinum or Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl. And get a hold of Platinum. Maybe don't. No, just get a hold of Platinum if you want to play Platinum. But if you want a Switch game and you want to give money to Nintendo and Game Freak, then buy Diamond and Pearl. If you want to give them money and say, I want money to go to other game studios working on Pokemon games, then get Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl. They're good. The pacing is fixed. I think, at least so far, it is. I'm 6 gyms in. Yeah, I'm 6 gyms in. I'm way over leveled. I can't not get caught up. I've had to skip routes. I've skipped trainer fights, and I'm still like way too far ahead. Like, I'm willingly, the only trainers I'm not avoiding are like story trainers. So all the gym trainers and all the grunts, all the like Team Galactic grunts. I'm not avoiding them because I'll only get one chance to fight them. But like routes, trainers that I'll be able to go back and fight later, like, I'm avoiding all of them. And I'm still over leveled from one grinding session where I got a little too over leveled. That's because of the experience share. So you don't have to worry about weird pacing and having to grind, I don't think. So it's good. It's that part's gone. You don't have to worry about it anymore. Which is great. It's great for a JRPG. It's great for a Pokemon game. It makes it simple, makes it straightforward. So like, my challenge is coming from the Nuzlocke, but even then it's not really hard. And it's nice to not have a hard JRPG. It's nice to not have a hard Pokemon game. If you want a little bit more challenge, maybe go for Platinum, or don't grind the way I did. That'll probably balance things a little bit better. Just don't grind. Go forward and play, and don't grind. I have a weird thing where I want all the people on my team to be the same level, and then having an experience share you can't turn off makes that hard. So that's Brilliant Diamond, which honestly isn't even on honorable mentions. Like, it's good, but it's not like the other games. On my honorable mentions, which I guess is really games that I just want to talk about. So Brilliant Diamond would definitely be on this. Monster Hunter Rise. Thank you, everyone who bought that game and played it with me. I had such a fun time playing it. It's just not like, if it was maybe more like as an aesthetically more like Bloodborne, or I don't know. It could have been one of those things where it would have made the top 10 list, but it's just like the aesthetic is kind of what's keeping it from being top 10, but it's still a great game. It was still really good. I still loved it. And I'm really grateful that I got to play it. And that I got to play it with my friends. Next is Great Ace Attorney, which almost all the things that I said about Justice for All applies to Great Ace Attorney. The only difference is that the cases were really long and like dragged on, and I'd be like, we're still doing this. It's not done yet. Why isn't it done yet? And that's not a great place to be, but it was still charming. Doing everything with Herlock Sholmes was so good. It is so good. It's so charming. All the characters are lovely. I use Susato's reaction like animations as like reaction gifs, and I love it. It's so good. It's just there are parts of it that are rough, right? And so that's why Justice for All made the list and not Great Ace Attorney. I also want to talk about Skyward Sword. It's good. Go and play it. Probably play the HD one. I played the one on the Wii. The Wii controls are bad. I know that there are people who've gone and made it work and that it was great for them. It was bad for me. It made the Demise fight awful. And so like I made a video on Skyward Sword where I talked about it more in depth. But yeah, the controls ruined the demise fight, and so it was this great game up to the demise fight, and then the demise fight was bad, and then they were playing the credits and going through it, and I was like, it actually was a really fun game. It just had one part that wasn't great, because of the bad controls. And even then, the bad controls weren't bad. Like, they didn't ruin the game the rest of the game. They were still bad, but they didn't ruin the game. They only ruined the game once, and it was at the last part. Next is Submerged, which is, I think, the most unknown game that I've played. It's a game by an Australian dev studio, or New Zealand. I don't remember. I'm really sorry. But it's tiny and small and quick, and it's a 3D, and it's got 3D art, and it's a small ruined world, Wind Waker-y type, go around, climb stuff, and explore a world. And so if you want to explore a world that doesn't have a lot of overt story, go and play Submerged. It's great, it's small, it's quick, and it's brilliant. I also want to talk about Shantae. This is the first year that I played a Shantae game, and I'm going to play more, because they're really good. And so I think you should play a Shantae game too. They're really good Metroidvanias. This video is 30 minutes long. You don't have to watch it. I'm grateful that you did. If you're still here, thanks for just listening to me talk about video games for so long. It's been good. Chances are, if you're watching this, you are a actual human being that I really do love. If you're a stranger, is there a way you can DM me? I don't know. I'm like Matt Dr. Walsh on everything. Get in touch. Talk with me. If you want, you can. Oh my gosh, leave comments. I forgot that was a thing that can happen in YouTube. If you're just some rando, you can leave a comment. If not, you can DM me if you want to talk more about this stuff. I just wanted to get all my thoughts out there into a space, into a thing, so that if people wanted to hear me talk about video games that I had played this year, they could. Oh, I also played Mario Odyssey this year, and it's not on the list. It's not on the list. Thank you. I love you. Have a great Wednesday. Bye.